Hey, 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 and welcome to another edition of Shine with Dorothy-Inez. It has been, I think, 2 weeks since you last saw me, but I am back and in full force with my amazing guest today. We are going to be talking about how you can move from small thinking to big thinking. So stay tuned. Don't forget to like, don't forget to share, and I will be right back. Okay, I said I'd be right back, so I am back. So let me introduce my guest because we've got a lot to talk about today. So my first guest is Ryan the Raw Lion Morris. He's the co-founder of Mandelbrot Productions, LLC, the production company of The Giants and the Smalls, The League of Giants, The Tribe of Giants, the Wake Up with Giants TV. Are you guys seeing a theme here? A Wake Up with Giants radio. He is an incredible human. This is his bio. He truly is an incredible human being who is committed to the success of others. So I'll bring him on. And next is his partner in crime, Nicholas, who I like to call Nick, Townsend Smith, known as Nick, the Gentle Giant. Yes, he is a gentle giant. He's the author of The Giants and the Smalls, this amazing book right here. The Adventure of Remy and Rit. He is also a mystic, a performance coach, and a proud father of 4 beautiful children. Give it up for my guests, my brothers, Nick and Ryan. Woo, 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 woo.
Hey, thanks for reading all those great things about me.
Yeah, that we each wrote.
That I wrote. Ryan is so great, and she read it line for line.
Yeah, I read it line for line. But hey, it was true. All of it was true about you guys. I'm so excited to have you here. It's been a minute since we've been in this forum because I think I was on your show back in September, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep, in the same position, standing up, keeping my energy going,
That's what I loved about your show was the energy. You standing up, dancing around, singing. I think maybe you didn't do any of that, but that's what I remember.
So let me ask you guys, we're going to jump right in because I know we are going to have a lot of content today. So how did you two meet? I never know if you knew this.
No, I was going to pass it on to
Nick.
No.
I'm putting that over on you.
So we both were in the RV industry. And I left a job. Nick had been in sales and then went to finance for a major company in the RV industry. And I was working at the competitor as a salesman. Quit my job, went to that dealership, and then I saw Nick one day. I thought, hey, that guy, that's a good looking dude. That Nicholas T. Smith. Yeah, he catches some eyeballs. So I was like, well, what's going on with that guy? Because he would walk in and just go right to his office, and he'd go like this to a few people, what's up, and then just walk to his office. But he didn't look. I was new, so we didn't look over and say anything to me because we don't know each other. So I'm like, I'm gonna go over there. I'm talking to that guy, and I got to sit in front of Nick and find out he's a coach, and that he had written a book, and so I got to go to one of his coaching events, and I said to my wife I said, look, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know how, but I'm going to be in business with that guy. I think this is amazing. And this was on coaching. Like I was thinking about, helping other people. That's my jam. That's what I like to do. And so she's like, well, just, go talk to him. Ask him if he wants to be in business. I said, yeah, okay, cool. So show up the next day at work. I was like, dude, I got a great idea. You and I should be in business together. And he said, no.
Is that how it went down, Nick?
It literally was that. It was like, nah, nope, I'm not interested.
I don't do partners, he says.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Obviously that didn't work out.
Yeah. Looking into the future.
Yeah.
And so, wow. And you guys have created a really, I think of it as a movement. You've really created a wonderful movement that I have the privilege of being a part of. So what was I'm curious from both of you, and since Ryan, you just answered, let's start with Nick on this question. What prompted this journey? Like, what prompted like the book, writing the book and this whole journey to becoming a giant?
Yeah, I'll go back all the way to the beginning. 2008, the market crashed, right? Everything was failing. I had left a real estate career, made some really poor decisions around that. And so I was down and out. So I was in foreclosure on my home. I was filing for bankruptcy. I was actually at a food bank sitting in the parking lot, going to get food because that's the only way I could provide food at that time. And I had a friend of mine that said, hey, you need to talk to a guy named Steve Hardison, who is I didn't know anything about him, right?
Yeah, I just discovered him.
Yeah. So I'm sitting there and I get a call while I'm at the food bank. And I'm ready to walk in the door. He calls. I obviously stop, sit in the car, and we have a conversation. And I had experienced some coaching in the past, but nothing like this. And so he really just sat with me. He was fully present with me. And I remember how I felt. I remember some of the words, but not all of them. But I remember how I felt. And it was just pure love. There was this human that didn't need anything from me. There was no agenda in it. He was just truly there to be of service to me. And there was a point in there where I asked him a question. I said, can you? And before I could ask the question, he said, yes. And
I recognize that line.
Yeah. You'll see that in the book. So he says, yes. And I'm like, how can you say yes if you don't even know what I'm going to ask? And he says, there's nothing you can ask that's bigger than me or my ability to create. And it wasn't an arrogant thing. It wasn't out of arrogance. But it truly hit me. I forgot what I was going to ask him. And so, we had that conversation. It was really impactful. And my life didn't change drastically. I was working with my brother in Park City. It's about an hour commute each direction. He's a mechanical contractor. And so as I would drive, I would listen to audiobooks. And I was listening to Spencer Johnson's Who Moved My Cheese. And I thought, man, I could write that. And so I thought, why not? But what would I write about? But I saw the mansions on the hill, and I just kept thinking, why are they living such giant lives while I'm feeling so small? I feel small. I'm driving to work every day. I don't feel like I'm accomplishing much. I don't feel like I have a purpose at that time. And I decided that's what I would write about. I actually got a voice recorder and started recording the book as I would drive to work. And then I'd go home and share it with my kids. And I'd be like, this is how I want to teach this. I don't want to teach it like those people inherited that, or that they were entitled to it, or that they were special in any way. I wanted to write it in a form that they earned it, that they went out there and created it. And so I wrote the book from that format so I could teach my kids and myself. And I took from my mentors and I plugged that into the story. This is what my mentor would teach me if I were writing with him or her, And so
I like how you inserted that.
Well, I had a lot of coaches that were women that were powerful. Right. And yeah, absolutely. You'll see the language of this book is written for everybody, and it's available to everybody. So it took me about a year to write the book. I couldn't afford to get it illustrated. I did a Kickstarter on my own. I had a $10,000 goal. I raised $800. I was going to buy images. Never happened. I had the vision of it in my mind, but I couldn't afford to pay for the images. So I put it on a shelf. And actually, because of what was going on and financially, I went back to school. I got a master's degree in psychology, industrial psychology.
Yeah, we both share that, which we discovered.
I got a job doing sales. Turns out I'm pretty good at sales. So I've been doing that for about 10 years. I still work while I'm building this community. And about 2 years ago, I ended up getting divorced in 2019, and it was really hard. About a year before that, I started paying for images for the book. I picked it back up. I needed something to focus on. And so I picked that back up. And in 2020, Ryan and I launched a Kickstarter in March 17th, 2020, St. Patrick's Day.
Wow.
The entire country shut down. We were going to do a live event. Yeah, everything shut down. So much uncertainty. Right. We took off like an albatross in that campaign. It was just really clunky and slow, and then it launched, and toward the end, we funded that campaign.
We thought it was going to be another $800 go, and $799 of it was ours.
Wow! Wow!
But we made it, and from there we launched a book. We had some help from powerful giants like Richard Paul Evans, Paul Cardall, Jenna Evans Welch. Steve Chandler, Steve Hardison. Steve Chandler was more of a mentor. He didn't help with the book, but he was a mentor back in the day. Just powerful people. But it took two crises to really launch this book. It was an 11-year project. And now from that, we had no vision that there would be a tribe of giants when we started. Yeah. We didn't know what visions looked like, really.
Yeah.
And now we have a global community, and it's continuing to grow, and it's people who are stepping into their own potential. And it's beautiful. It
truly is. It truly is. Yeah. That's a very, very beautiful story, because a lot of times, just hearing, number one, it was an 11-year journey.
Yeah.
Sometimes people think, the vision is just going to pop in. And I think if you had brought the book out 11 years ago, because even me reading this, remember I told you, wow, divine timing. I've had this book since October and I didn't read it. And it's divine timing, because maybe had you launched that book sooner, number one, you probably wouldn't have met Ryan. And you wouldn't have the movement and all these elements that you guys have. Yeah. So it's like trusting that everything's happening in divine order. So that's a really beautiful story. So thank you for sharing. Ryan, I'd love to hear from you as well. What's your small to giant story?
So I lived, I had a good family, good upbringing, good principles, and taught to work hard, go to school, get a good job. And so I worked on that. And then I have a little bit of a wild hair. And so I decided I'm not a very good employee. Let me just tell you, I have a problem with authority. I think I'm finding that out more and more and more, that I like to do things and create on my, something that's for me, not necessarily on my own, but something that's for me. So I started an auction business and went on a journey doing that, and that didn't work out. And it did well, it did fine, and it gave me a lot of experience, and I think it prepared me for what was coming. I had to go through a lot of ups and downs and struggles and fear and unknown to prepare me to where I would be open and accepting of an opportunity. Rejection. I got rejected by Nicholas T. Smith, everybody.
Wow. Now that's ooh.
I used to work as a paper delivery boy, right? Back in the day when you threw the newspaper on the doorstep.
Oh yeah.
I'd go around. I had 2 paper routes as an 8-year-old. From 8 to 13, I saved 10 grand. I had to go door to door collecting the money. It was $1, and it was a donation. It was $1 donation. It wasn't even you have to sign up for this newspaper. So I'd go knock on their door and be like, "Yeah, I'm here to collect." And they'd be like, "What?" I'd be like, "Yeah, it's $1." And so they give me $1. And then I learned, hey, look, if I put it on the front porch, they'll, and do a good job, they might give me a tip, which I don't have to give them any money of the tip. And then I learned, hey, look, maybe I could have them pay for the whole year. And so I started talking about subscriptions, and doing a subscription as an 8-year-old kid going around with a clipboard, having people subscribe. And so I learned sales. I learned about fear and the unknown. What's behind that door? I never knew. So for me, it was molding and shaping me from a very young age to be ready for an opportunity and a purpose that could come along. This is a purpose, and this is a platform that can help hundreds of millions of people, if not more. And so that's, yeah. So divine timing. I would agree with that 100%. Like you said, divine timing. It was the right time. It was the perfect time.
And a beautiful partnership that you two have, how you just flow off of each other each and every week, bringing on other giants onto your show. I want to just share with the audience listening, like I said earlier, you guys sent me this book back in, I think it was October, and it sat on my shelf up until last week. Because you guys saw in the video that I did, I was like, I thought, oh, this is a kid's book. It's going to be a fast read. And then I looked at the pages and I was like, oh my God, there's too many words on this. I get overwhelmed by words. Okay. So in college, you can imagine I had to always get all my books on audio, and I'd have the actual physical book, but the Audible would read it for me. And I just highlight whatever, I could never read books. It makes me tired. So the other day, I'm going through some my own little valley the other day. And, I decided to pick up this book because I'm like, I can't come on here and interview my brothers and not have read the book, right? So I read the book. I start reading the night before, and I'm like, wow, this is really good. But I didn't want to, leave it with the cliffhanger, but I was so tired. So that was Saturday night. Sunday, I say, something prompts me to finish the book in the morning out on my patio, and I'm reading it. And as I'm reading it, tears began to just flow out of my eyes, because I'm reading the part where they, and I get them. Is it Rit? Is that his name? The small?
Yeah. Yep.
When you talk about living that small life, what he's describing, what a small life is. And I realized that as I've been going through my valley, I had been living that small life the last 2 weeks of my journey. And then I started reading just the whole story. I mean, just floods of tears come out. I'm like, the ugly cry, the ugly Oprah cry, okay, is coming. And so I messaged Nick. I think I called you first, Nick, and then you didn't answer. So then I messaged you because I was like, I have to let him know, like, oh my gosh, this is such a powerful book. So that led to me, Nick, I need you to send this out to 5 people immediately, because there's some people that I know need to hear this story. When you guys think about, what was your intention when you wrote this book? What were you guys hoping for by writing this book? Does that make sense?
Yeah. I wanted to teach my kids. That's what I wanted to do. I had no idea it would be a global book when I wrote it. But I wanted to leave my kids with a legacy that they get to have whatever they want in their life, but they got to go earn it, because I didn't want them to be entitled. And I'm not entitled. I'm not entitled to anything in this life. I get to go out and earn it just like everybody else.
Right.
And so that's the legacy I wanted to leave with my kids. Well, when I started sharing it with others, they're like, that's what I want to leave with my kids. And then it expanded from there. I remember reading it. I had some friends, I had it printed out, Word document back in the day. And I read it out to their kids. Are falling asleep. This book's so long, right? It's 30 minutes long to read it straight through. But the parents are just sitting there going, oh my gosh, I've got to have this. There's no images or anything. It's just a story. And, it really kind of moved from there. It grew from there. Like, yeah, I need to share this. I knew I wanted to get it published. I had published a book back in 2011, but it never went anywhere, never took off. And so to really have a book that people could get behind and see themselves in. Can I share an experience?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a gentleman I met this week. His name is Simone from Italy. He owns a gelato shop in Santa Monica. It's soon to be rated the top gelato shop in Santa Monica. And he got my book about a week ago. and we become really good friends around that. He's
Mhm.
translating it into Italian. And
Oh,
his story,
sweet.
he's coming on the show on the 19th of May, and he's translating it into an Italian, and he's sending it to his family. And his mom's this old Italian lady, and she just keeps saying, "Where's my next chapter? Like, what the hell's going on? Where's my next chapter? I need to know what's going on with Rit." And
He
the
like leaves
beautiful thing,
cliffhangers.
yeah. So every morning he's sending a section of the book over, translated. He's like, "I don't know what I'm going to do after this." But he owns a successful gelato shop in Santa Monica. He came to
Mhm.
America from Italy. He didn't speak any English. He
Mm,
didn't know how to make gelato. And
my favorite.
when he read the story, he's like, "This is my journey. Holy cow, this is me." And he
It's
saw
so
himself
many
in it.
journeys. It's so
Yeah.
many people's journey. You know, I love like you said, the flow of it is like you start with this particular life, this particular way of being, and you think that that's all there is until you begin to ask the questions. And that's what the character did. He began to ask questions. Why not me? You know?
Yeah.
And I love that. And then how you illustrate going, like he's saying, going through the journey to,
Yeah.
become that giant. I don't want to give away the book, but, because they got to read the book.
Yeah.
But,
But there are
yeah.
ways where we feel giant in one area, and then we go back and we feel small in another area. It's the entire internal journey that each of us goes
Mhm.
through to
Mhm.
reach our potential, or to uncover our potential. It's already in there. It's just uncovering it.
So my question for you guys is, what about, and I've struggled with this, just being authentic, being seen, a person who's being seen as a giant. And because you just bring up a really good point, you're a giant, but then there's this holdback of, this almost a shame of, when you're not a giant in all areas of your life.
Yeah.
How do you help somebody, or what would you say to somebody who's in that space of feeling like, well, I'm not a giant, people see me as a giant in every area, but I'm really struggling in this one.
Yeah.
And because that alone, that thinking, that sense of shame can keep a person stuck and not moving to their fullest. You might be living in full potential, but not fullest potential.
Yeah. Can I speak to that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd love to hear from you and Ryan.
Think about shame is usually experienced when we look at acceptance from others. And so when we want acceptance from others, we will often hide things so that we won't feel that shame. Like if they only knew our story, then what?
Mm-hmm.
Well, the reality is that my biggest growth has come from really being open and honest. And by honest, meaning owning. That's what the word honest means, is to own my experience completely, all of my choices, all of my decisions, and to bring them to the table. So when I first started doing videos, this was before Wake Up with Giants TV, I was doing live videos right after my divorce, talking about my experience. I thought, you know what? I'm not going to swear here, but I normally would.
No, you can swear if you want to. We keep it real right here.
I just was thinking, fuck it. I'm going to go for it. On Facebook, these are all my people, my family, the people who know me, and I'm going to open up and bear.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started to share that journey, and that's where it started to grow from, where we started to get a tribe and where we started to have movement around bringing other people on and talking about their journey. But it started with owning everything that we do. And the only time we feel shame is that we feel like we won't be accepted by others for what we do. But the reality is that owning it eliminates the shame. It's like Brene Brown talks about. It loses its power, right? And so when we can really step into it and say, look, this is me, this is what I do. It's not a case of like, just deal with it. It's a matter of, look, I'm really transforming this. This is where I'm at. This is how I show up in the world. We're so afraid for people to see that. That's why we feel shame. If people knew that I did what I do, they wouldn't love me.
Right.
Yeah, that's not true. Because they're hiding their own stuff,
Mm-hmm.
That's my experience there.
Yes. What about you, Ryan? What are your thoughts?
You know, and I like what Nick said. I love what Nick says, because every time he speaks, I'm just like, huh? And that's part of the reason why I stay. It's just because, look, I get to be around amazing people like you guys who are living your authentic self at the highest possible level that you can. And you then turn around, and this is another part of to answer your question, is something that you can do to see like where you're not being, giant, is to turn around and look to a mentor or somebody that can see where you are playing small and then help you through that. And it's okay. You know what? I'm going to throw something out there. It's okay to feel small. It's okay to feel anxiety, depression, shame, guilt, all those things. As long as it's not too long, and you need to move through that, allow it, and then move through it. And I had a day yesterday where I felt, probably the past several months, there's been parts in my life where I feel extremely small, and that's okay. I know where they're at, and I know what it is, and I'm working on those things and trying to figure out, okay, how can Ryan be a better person? How can I be better for me? Not as far as like, like there's something wrong with, like where I'm at. It's I want more. I want to be a more powerful leader so I can serve and help others. That's really where I'm at. That I want to live into the nickname and the moniker Ryan the Lion.
Right.
And
when you walk in the room, there's a roar.
She's like, here. It doesn't look very scary.
No, the bigger one.
Oh, rah!
Yeah.
But
play the eye of the tiger when you walk in the room. Okay.
So hearing this, like as I hear this, I think of a Bible, verse where Jesus says, "Let him who's without sin cast the first stone." And it's like, we all have our stuff. Stuff. The difference is that some of us own it. And I pause on that because that's the impact of it. When you can own your stuff, all of it,
right,
it opens you up for growth. If you're hiding it, then there's no way for you to reach that potential because you're hiding it. It really takes an openness to really fully experience the giant's journey.
So, Ryan, you mentioned something that I really resonated with, where you were talking about, how you're feeling right now in life, and that it's okay sometimes, like you said, to be depressed, to be this, to be, to feel, whatever. But the key that you point out is the stayingness, is the choice to move through it. Because a lot of people, they feel that, and then they begin to claim that as their identity, and they stay stuck, and they go, "Oh, I'm just depressed. I struggle with depression." And they let that be this thing that they lean into to keep them playing small. Yeah. And so I love that you talked about how through what you're going through, and the same for me is digging into your toolbox. Just because you might be at the top of your game doesn't mean you're not going to have struggles. I don't know what a struggle is.
Sometimes you have struggles.
I like it.
Yeah, that's
like
something they have
words.
in the giant land.
Yeah.
Trouble and struggles.
We have struggles.
Yes.
Struggles.
Yeah.
That's a new Nobel Prize term.
Yes. And so you dig into your toolbox, because one of the things I live by is life is always happening for me, not to me. And so each and everything that challenge that comes my way, like give you an example, because like I said, behind the scenes I've got some stuff I'm dealing with. And on Monday I had signed up with a coach, and I went and looked at the work she wants me to do. And I was like, oh no, it's a whole bunch of writing. You remember what I told you about words, right? A lot of words on the page gets me stressed out. So it was a lot of writing. And I've got a launch coming up. And I found, myself having this physical response to it because there's all these little irons in the fire and things going on. And I started to get into anxiety. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to have to drop out of your program right now. Can we push it back? I mean, I was so panicked and out of alignment with who I am because I found myself letting other things dictate my, because I felt, Nick, out of control. And what ended up happening is that I stepped back in, I calmed down, and I went in, I used the tools in my toolbox, and I said, you know what? It's no surprise to God that these things came into my life at that time. They came here to teach me. I have to learn how to deal with adversity and, when different things are going on, if I'm going to expand myself fully into the giant. And so I'm going to ask you what you showed me.
Yeah.
So I decided to stay with that program because I might have a client who's going through what I just went through on Monday. Well, I can't help that person if I allow myself to quit. So I worked through it using my tools, So that we have to do that because it doesn't matter where you're at in life. You're going to have those valleys, those challenges. So Nick, what was that little thing?
Yeah. So this is, I don't know if you could see it fully there. The X in that. It's a crystal. It's a stone. Okay. It's got an X all the way through it. My brother gave that to me when he was going through a hard time. I was going through a hard time. He gave that to me with a story tied to it. He found it. But he said, I want you to have this because what it represents for him is that wherever you are is exactly where you should be. Mm-hmm. And so I've got my toenails painted with it. I got a gray undertone with the white X's on it. Painted. I would show those up here, but it's probably not the show for it. But the idea is that no matter where we are in our life, we're there for a reason.
Exactly.
We're there. There's a purpose in all of it. And so wherever you are is exactly where you should be. And that's what that stone is a reminder of, is X is exactly where you need to be. And X is wherever you are. You belong right where you are. And so there's opportunity in it. And so that just came up as you were sharing there. I felt like that might be important to share.
We talk about the I am statements, right? I've got my I am a giant statement. Before the show, I wrote, I am a giant, I am a lion, I am worthy. Because before every show, like we center. And we did that with you. And we had a prayer before we got on and it was gratitude and centering and clearing and breathing. And those are all tools and tricks. I don't know if it's a trick, but it's a tip. And to feel through those.
Tricks are for kids.
Nick, what does trick mean? Nick always knows the origin of the words.
Yeah.
We don't want. Sorry, everybody. But those I am statements are just as powerful in reverse. And so if you are owning or declaring what you are, what you want to have, right? You could say like I have or I am depression. I have depression. Well, okay. So what do you get? Depression, anxiety. Those things might come up, and that's okay, because I feel anxious and I feel depressed at different times and points in my life. And before I met Nick, it was even more. After meeting Nick, he's added to my toolbox, and then meeting more and more giants and being coached has allowed me to have those tools. I saw one of your guests said to feel through it. And Nick talks about what's called salmonic action. Imagine a rushing river. You've seen the salmon that trying to jump upstream, and they have to get up to the top of the stream because that's where they came from. And but they have to hold sometimes. They got to rest and hold and let life pass through them. Those feelings go through.
I love this.
And then quick as lightning, they'll dart to the next spot and they'll move. And that's really what Steve Hardison talks about is taking action and the I am statements. I am a giant. I am this. I am that. Whatever it is that you want to be, do, or have, write it out.
I
Make your
took
own
it,
I am statements.
and that's exactly what I did. I took, I wrote, I won't even say I wrote down. I recorded my I am statements. I just, took out my iPhone, recorded, and I found myself, I just started declaring truth over myself. And it was like, it ended up being like 11 and a half minutes. And then what I did is I took it and I uploaded it into GarageBand, and I added some effects and some music to it.
Great
And so
idea.
I put it on to my, it's in my iTunes now, and I listen to it 2 times a day, hearing my voice speak life over myself 2 times a day. And so that was something that I found to be really powerful, because who talks to you the most? You do. And a lot of times it's negative. So why not create something that allows you to speak powerfully to yourself? And sometimes I might need a double dose of that thing and, put it on repeat,
So I want
Loop.
to speak to that a little bit, because if we could say an affirmation and fully believe it and feel it once, we would never have to say it again. And what we do is we have this tendency to repeat things. We go into repetition because we think repetition is what brings things about. It's not the repetition, it's the emotion. And the more fully you can get into the emotion of it and really feel it, the less you have to do it. Gratitude, they did a research study just recently. They found that if you were to write down and fully be with gratitude once a week, it's way more impactful than doing it daily. And the reason being is because when we go into auto mode, our automated system that we have in our bodies isn't designed for emotion. It's designed for response. And so as we repeat, we're going into the response mode where there is no emotion. There's no feeling behind it. It's a to-do list. And so, we check it off, but there's no feeling in it. And perhaps maybe that repetition is enough to get you to feel the feeling of it. And even one time feeling that feeling of it would be more impactful than doing that 1,000 times of checking it off a list. And so when we really slow down with our creations and we can fully feel the emotion of it, that's where we start to see the shift.
That's so powerful what you're talking about. And that's why I incorporated music with it, because the music invokes, I'm very much into music. And so it's very healing for me.
Is there a specific type of music that you like?
Well, it depends on the mood, like if I'm, feeling a little ratchet, might be a little DMX or something,
I was going to go
Eminem.
with my favorite is Prince.
Oh. Well, Prince, of course, that's a daily thing. Okay. That's a daily thing, but there's certain songs, music just for me puts me in a different vibration. So I have Spotify. I actually have I have a self-love playlist. I have a list called You Got This when I need a little motivation. And it just has different energy to it, because when in my practitioner work, we talk about the key is the feeling tone. You have to feel it, like you're saying, in your body, because I feel like, and Nick, I'm sure you know a lot more about this, but when you feel it, it makes it like a reality to your senses. Like it's hard to go back to.
Can I nerd out on that?
Place. Yeah, nerd out, because I know you like this guy's like, Nick, come on. Where's your glasses, man? Where's your glasses?
I didn't bring my glasses.
Hold on tight at home, everybody.
Okay. So in repetition, that's a way of creating, right? Our neurons are all designed around repetition. So as you fire a neuron, it's supported by what are called oligodendrocytes. They come in and wrap the neuron and they make it fire faster and faster and faster. So the more you do it, the quicker it fires. It becomes automated. The challenge is it takes a lot of effort and time to have that happen. Emotions can shortcut that whole process, because at the synaptic connections in the brain, the emotions have access to all of that. So they can shortcut running down the axons and trying to find the pathway. It's like a train. It's like you jumped on, I don't know, like on Star Trek, when they transport, and they're immediately there. It's like taking the train versus transporting. When you feel the emotions of it, the emotions go right to the synaptic connections and shortcut everything. They have to, because you're talking about survival. So when your emotions, your chemicals are running through your body, they shortcut everything. That's why you can have trauma and have an immediate new behavior. Immediate. It's because the intensity of the chemical signals going through your body. You don't have to go through the clunkiness of establishing a routine and a behavior. So the more you can feel an emotion and get those chemicals running through your body, the quicker you're going to establish a new behavior.
Wow, that's powerful. You all hear that? Repeat that last part again so they get it in there.
Yeah. So the more you feel the emotion of it in the experience, the quicker you're going to establish a new behavior.
That explains too, like when I went with Tony Robbins and we did he's all about getting into getting into your body and feeling the energy. So that makes total sense. Did you get that? I was listening to, she's from Australia and she does mindset work. Did you get that from her?
No, this
Dr. Carolyn.
Is it Miss? Is that her
No,
last name?
I was going to say Dr., but it's not Dr. Carolyn.
No, this is it's from multiple places, but one that I'm thinking of is Untangling Anxiety. He talks about it. He's a PhD. Also looking at, let's see here. The Idea of the World is another book that I'm listening to, but that's on physics and consciousness. But that's going beyond all of it. That's going beyond the body or creation, photons, quarks, neutrinos. That's going beyond all of that.
Yeah, it's going deep stuff.
Yeah,
that
it's
I can't
going deep.
Pronounce. How about you, Ryan? Are you reading any of these types of, books as well?
I let Nick read them and then tell them to me in normal layman's terms.
Yeah.
He then says, "Okay, so here's how it is." He talks like that, and like a parent to a kid, and feeds me.
Yeah. This guy does this.
Does
and that.
stick figures.
Yeah.
And, but I get it. And what he's talking about is true. And the more we persist in a particular behavior, and the more we feel into it, the easier it gets. And it's science, people. It's science.
The same holds true in the reverse. So if you have a negative emotion, or what we label as a negative emotion, the emotions are all for experience. But if you have anxiety and you're trying to create from there, that anxious feeling really dictates how you show up in the world. So you really aren't able to be present with that there. So that's a case where you'd use your tools to calm down so you can get your brain back.
Because it talks about our behaviors and our history have gravity, right? And imagine you have a blanket, and or a mattress or a bed, and you stick a heavy bowling ball on it. Well, it weighs down. You put a marble on the other side as something you're trying to create and do. It's hard for that because you got gravity. It's pulling you backwards. So you have to keep adding to gain mass on that other side. You have to persist in those other behaviors and feel into it to make it weightier. Is that the right word?
Yeah. So your behaviors, you've done them so many times that they do have mass. They have influence on your life. And so to add a new behavior in, the old behaviors are so heavy in your life that they're going to draw back in. You're going to go back to it. And so until that new behavior gains mass and gains its own gravity and pulls away from the old gravity, the other one's still going to be there present. But you got to keep adding mass to the new behavior.
So how do you keep adding that mass?
You recommit. You recommit. So you talk about grit. There's a book called, I think it's called Grit.
Yeah.
And she talks about how important that is in creating what you want in your life, but you got to stick to it. You got to recommit, sometimes daily, sometimes multiple times a day, especially if you're not feeling the emotion of it, is to really just keep recommitting. Even when you don't feel the emotion, just keep doing it.
Some of that's consciousness too, being aware that this is happening. Okay, I'm feeling that now. Okay, now shift. And like literally, like you could even say out loud, I feel this, shift, and then do what helps you shift. Music, calling a friend, right?
I do that a lot.
Something, me and Nick are always talking to each other.
Phone a friend.
Like we're going through.
A lifeline.
Get a lifeline. Whatever that is for you, feel through it. Have a good cry, cuddle up on the bed for a few minutes, like what do you got to do to feel through that for a second, but then move, then get up and move.
I think people forget, like somebody gets successful to a degree and they think, oh, they don't feel any negative emotions anymore. What a lie. What a bullshit story, because I feel anxiety and depression, those feelings, those emotions of it nearly every day. So, and I create. So there's an allowance where you can have those things present and create some powerful things.
Think about Elon Musk when he threw that steel ball at the windshield or the window of the Tesla truck that was supposed to be bulletproof. I figured out why it broke, but he did it in some tests before he went out and threw the ball against that and it shattered. Do you think like anger, like sadness, embarrassment, all these things probably flooded his body because he's on stage, on the world stage, one of the brightest men in the world, throws a ball and the window shatters and it's supposed to be shatterproof.
Oh, wow. I didn't see that. Was that recent?
If you haven't found that video, it's been a little while since they demoed that. The reason is because they did the test several times and it lowered the window a little bit so it wasn't connected and touching on all points. So when it hit, there wasn't connection all the way around. They didn't think that all the way through. But for him, he's thinking, wow, this is my truck. This is what I do. Wham! And it doesn't go his way. And then the feelings, I'm sure he felt all of those same things. Do you think he went home and sucked on his thumb and cried and just, I give up. Tesla's stupid.
I would have. Yeah.
I'd get
back at it.
Yeah.
I'd be
but homeboy, you know what he did? He's like, nah, that's okay. It's probably some faulty glass or something. We'll figure it out. We'll do this again. We'll go figure out why it did what it did.
Right.
And I'll move through it. He transmuted the energy. He takes that negative energy and then shifts that into positive energy.
There's that lion. Yeah. Yeah. Well, and you're making me think too, I've been in this, doing this work for 13 years, and it's a constant as you're growing and you have to decide, is this for me? Is this for me? Is this something that I'm truly called to? Like we're saying here, and I think we said it, I hope people are really taking this away, that you keep going. If this is what's meant for you, you allow yourself to feel the feelings, whatever those are. But what's in your toolbox? What do you have in your toolbox? And being conscious so that you can handle these moments in a healthy way. I'm curious, and this will be my last question for you guys, because I think the women listening, I serve a lot of women in network marketing, coaches, and they struggle a lot with self-doubt. They struggle with, is this thing for me, because it's not working out? They're not getting the clients like they thought they were getting, and it begins to diminish, their sense of, they come in like, I'm a giant, I'm going to make this work, whether it's their coaching business, whether it's their direct sales or network marketing business. But as they get these, what they consider to be failures rather than learning opportunities, they get smaller and smaller and smaller. What would you say to those
I've got a quote
watching?
for that. I've got a quote right in front of me that's perfect for this, and that'll be a tie-in. So this is Sharon Salzberg, and she says, the key in letting go is practice. Each time we let go, we disentangle ourselves from our expectations and begin to experience things as they are. The challenge is that when we feel frustration, it's usually because we have an expectation of how it should go. And we want it to go down that path. And when it doesn't, I have this dice here that Ryan gave me. It's hard to see because it's green screen there. But the reminder in that is that I don't know the path for what I'm creating. And it's not my job to know the path. And so when we have an expectation, we want to hold the path. We want to control that path. And when it doesn't go our way, we get really frustrated and butthurt in a way, and get mad at God, the universe, everybody else, because it's not going on our path. Our job is not to know the path. Our job is to hold the vision and to create that vision so clearly that we have a memory of a future event, that we speak it in the now. That I'm getting emotional here.
Let yourself feel it. Like,
yeah, you see it. You see it so clearly that you just know that it is. that you have this memory of this thing. And sometimes you don't know what that vision is. Like when I started out, I had visions of things I had to control it so badly. It had to look my way.
Mm-hmm.
And the more I was able to let go, the more the thing I needed came into my space. And I had so much frustration, 11 years of frustration. Like, why is it so easy for others? That's so easy for me. Why do they seem to have this life that seems so giant and I'm living this small? And same questions you see in the book.
Yeah.
The more I let go, if you notice, when Rick goes home and sleeps, he wakes up giant. He wakes up outgrowing his house in his sleep. And our challenge is that we think we're so woke that we know the right path, right? So this idea of untangling ourselves from our expectations and taking it, life is exactly as it is, right? You are exactly where you should be. There are no accidents that way. And then from there, if you can let go of the how-to, you can hold the vision, you can let go of the how-to, you can start stepping into that. And it's amazing the miracles that happen.
That's so powerful, because a lot of us have a hard time letting go of the control, living, as you said to me, in the uncertainty.
That's where the magic is. Yeah.
And trusting that it's going to be okay. And it's like when you release it, I found this over and over and over. And this is why people why it's so important to have other giants around you, because when you get into that small, you can stay there. And so having somebody, like you said to me the other day, you were like, and I might be paraphrasing, but I think you said you had a word for me, and you identified the struggle of being able to be in the uncertainty of life, because I need to know the outcomes. And when you're a person like that, who needs to control everything, who needs to know the outcomes of everything, it puts a lot of stress and anxiety on you. And I remember my German mom, she said, Ines, your own expectations are your own disappointments. And so that's what comes up when I hear you say that. So if we just live in this knowingness that, like what you said, we're exactly where we need to be. Life's always happening for you. The universe is in charge, and literally just go with the flow. And it's all going to work out.
Yeah. Take your hands off the wheel.
Yeah.
Not literally, like, please don't do that while you're driving, but
well, and it makes me think about what Jesus said. He said his burden is light. And so if I say to myself that, I'm working, I'm doing the work of the Lord here through what I do, well, it shouldn't feel like a big ass weight on my shoulder. It should be something that when I do it, I should feel joy. And that's the thing that has kept me, where my grit comes from, is that there's so much joy in the work. I'll freaking fall down. I'm like, this didn't work, that didn't work. But I'm like, okay, let's tweak this, let's tweak that. Because if it's for you, that's a part of the journey, is being able to learn from all those little, dips along the way. And a lot of people quit when they're like right there, and they quit.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, you have to give it some time too. I was thinking as you guys were talking about, like Colonel Sanders, Thomas Edison, Elon Musk. If they quit, I don't know how many times it took to get the right chicken recipe, but I remember it was a bunch.
Right.
If it was 100 times and he quit on 99, we wouldn't have Colonel Sanders chicken.
Well, we don't need it right now.
Yeah, light bulbs. Look, if Thomas Edison would have quit on the first try to figure it out, the Wright brothers, you start thinking about all the things that were great things. It isn't magically the first time, just magically pop into existence. It took effort. It took movement. It took perspective shift,
right?
Belief. Those things that you guys were talking about, and then allowing the universe to come in and being open to infinite possibilities.
Perry Power, in our last conversation on Sunday, talked about how he knows the what, and he knows the why, but he doesn't know the how or the when. And we want to know the how and the when, and often we don't have the what or the why.
So
I think that's
good.
powerful.
So good. Yeah, Perry was a powerful speaker. I told you I almost didn't tune in, but I was like, well, I looked at it, I saw what the topic was. I was like, that's not for me. But then when Spirit was like, get your behind on there. And I was like, okay. So I showed up. And that he inspired me, especially around the whole book thing, because what he said, like, I needed the producer, I needed the graphic designer, I needed the editor. That's where I'm at. I'm like, I need all that. And then I just decided to get on Canva. And that moment right there was because I started writing my book back in 2011 and it's halfway done. And it's been sitting there for that very reason that he talked about. So just his whole story was amazing and inspiring. What he chose to do with what happened in his life, because a lot of people will let that define them, and he chose not to. So I'm so excited that I got to talk to you guys a little more in depth today. Once again. Let the people know, where can they get a hold of this amazing book? And by the way, Nick, I want to say, I love at the back of the book, you've got these discussion points. And I think these are really great questions to help people start diving into their own giant, to just start thinking about what they're here, to do and be. So I love this book. How can they get a hold of it?
Ryan, you want that?
Yeah, I noticed that you had tabbed it up a little bit and put a bunch of tabs in it.
It's tabbed up a lot. I've got the lessons. You have to do the work to be a giant. I have here the power of being on the shoulders of a giant. You begin to see bigger and think bigger. I mean, I got some notes here. I'm ready to teach the book.
I love that. Yeah. I love it. You could go to www.giantsandsmalls.com. You can also find it on Amazon. If you want a signed copy, you'll go to giantsandsmalls.com, because Nick spends the time currently while he's still able to sign it. And you write "Stay Giant," right? We personally go through a lot of markets.
Yeah, I changed it to "Be Giant."
Be Giant. Yeah, I love it.
And feel free, Ryan, drop that in the comments.
I think Nicole's on this. She's one of our league members. That'd be powerful if she threw that in there for us.
Drop it like it's hot.
She's amazing.
Drop it like it's hot.
She's amazing.
The other thing we have too is we did a 2-hour masterclass on the book that's available on YouTube as well. That might be useful for your listeners, because it goes through the 12 steps of becoming a giant.
I think Nicole put a YouTube link in here, and I'm going to guess that's what it is.
I think that was Elon Musk.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Nicole, drop that for us. Nicole, drop them.
There's Elon Musk, and then there's us. We're close, but Elon Musk wins.
Okay. And I think that's it. I had some more stuff I wanted to ask you, but we'll have to have you back on, because I wanted to talk about this little tour that you did here recently too. Yeah. And you were giving out the books and meeting giants, and so that was very interesting. How can they connect to your community?
Tribe of Giants on Facebook.
Tribe of Giants.
A Tribe of Giants. Yeah. So it's a group on there. There's 2,800, 2,900 members so far. Very active community. That would be the best place to do it. If you do go to the website, there's a link for it in there. Mm-hmm. And so you can find it that way as well.
And then the podcast.
Yeah. So every Sunday morning on Wake Up with Giants TV, and that's on YouTube and Facebook. And so we interview people weekly, and then also have the park bench on Wednesday mornings, where I interview a giant and coach in some cases, and sometimes we just talk. So this morning was incredible on that.
Oh, nice,
Yeah.
nice. Well, you all have ways to get a hold of these two amazing, amazing gentlemen. Connect with them. As you can see, they're really awesome and they add so much value to the world. So, Nick, Ryan, thank you so much for being here with me
Yeah, thank
today.
you.
I'm going to have you wait backstage real quick and then I will be right back there.
Thank you. We love you.
Love you too. Okay, thanks so much for tuning in today. I'm so glad you were here with us. I'm going to ask next week to join us. I'm going to have my special guest, Candace Smith. She is an expat living over in Turkey. And so she's going to have a great story and she's going to be sharing with us. If you've ever been curious, how can I go and live in a foreign country and work abroad? Join me next week for my special guest. And until then, I look forward to seeing you. Keep shining.